Hall of Famers don't usually speak with a single, unified voice. And when they do, the rest of the league listens, even if they don't want to. Tonight, that voice isn't debating a trade, celebrating a milestone, or announcing a Hall of Fame induction. This time, it's aiming straight at one question that's become impossible to ignore. Why is Shedeur Sanders, one of the most promising quarterbacks in the NFL, sitting on the sidelines while the Browns continue to start someone else? The tension isn't subtle. It isn't hidden behind vague analysis or polite disagreement. This is raw, public scrutiny, delivered by those who have lived the game at its highest levels. When legends weigh in, the stakes aren't just about one play or one game. They're about authority, credibility, and the very culture of a franchise. Think about it, these are the people who defined eras. Players, analysts, commentators, Hall of Famers whose opinions can make or break narratives, whose words reach millions within minutes. And now, they've chosen a side. Their critique doesn't tiptoe around the facts. It lands hard, precise, unavoidable. There's something almost cinematic about it. One commentator leans forward on live TV, removing sunglasses, voice dripping with contempt, and says, "You've got this kid sitting there with poise, accuracy, leadership, and you're trotting out someone else." That's not just criticism. That's a verdict delivered on national television, and the reaction was instant. Silence in the studio, nods of agreement, producers scrambling, every element signaling that this moment was different, that it had the potential to ripple far beyond a single segment. From there, the fire spread like wildfire. Within minutes, clips circulated online, accumulating hundreds of thousands of views before noon. Fans didn't just share a clip, they mobilized, retweeting, tagging ownership, demanding answers. Hashtags exploded into the national conversation, elevating casual frustration into a full-blown cultural movement. And as the smoke rose from social media, other voices joined the chorus. Legendary players and respected analysts escalated the rhetoric, confirming the concern and even adding a layer of insider knowledge. What started as a pointed comment now felt like a reckoning. The coach wasn't just facing criticism. He was under the combined scrutiny of fans, media, legends, and perhaps even league attention, all converging around one central question. Who deserves to be the quarterback, and who is the team really listening to? And yet, Sanders himself sat quietly through it all, the focal point of one of the most intense debates in modern NFL history without saying a word. That silence is magnetic. It makes the tension unbearable. Every fan, every analyst, every headline hones in on him, waiting for that first move, that first sign of change. The clock is ticking toward the regular season. Each day the young quarterback remains inactive. The story grows, fueled by speculation, statistics, social media, and Hall of Fame authority. It's not just about one game anymore, it's a test of leadership, power, and public influence. By the end of this saga, the league, the fans, and the team may never look at quarterback decisions the same way again. This isn't a story that unfolds quietly. It explodes. And for anyone paying attention, the question is already crystal clear. How long can Kevin Stefanski withstand the mounting pressure before the inevitable decision becomes unavoidable? It all started with a single, charged moment on live television. The kind of moment that can ignite a movement before most viewers even finish their morning coffee. One of football's most respected voices leaned forward, eyes sharp, sunglasses off, and delivered a line that landed like a punch. "You've got this kid, Shedeur Sanders, with poise, accuracy, and leadership, and you're trotting out someone else." The words themselves weren't just commentary. They were a challenge, a public indictment of a coach's judgment, and a spark that set off a wildfire. The studio fell silent for a heartbeat, then erupted. Nods of agreement, murmurs of disbelief, and the subtle chaos of producers realizing the clip would go viral immediately. Every tiny reaction told the story of a moment no one would forget. Within minutes, social media caught fire. Fans who had been quietly frustrated for weeks suddenly had a rallying point. Clips were uploaded, retweeted, and dissected with the intensity of forensic evidence. The hashtag campaigns began almost organically, but within an hour they reached national prominence. By noon, the original segment had amassed hundreds of thousands of views. Tweets comparing Sanders, College highlights to Dylan Gabriel's pro performances went viral. Instagram Reels racked up millions, and TikTok creators were posting reaction videos dissecting every gesture, pause, and intonation. The conversation had shifted from casual fan debate to organized, culturally significant pressure. But what made this moment truly explosive wasn't just the viral clip. It was the authority behind it. The commentator wasn't merely expressing an opinion, they were staking their professional credibility. When someone with decades of experience, championship rings, and Hall of Fame status delivers a verdict on a coach's decision, it resonates differently than a fan thread or a highlight reel. That credibility transformed online frustration into a legitimate conversation about leadership, team culture, and organizational competence. Fans could now point to authority figures who agreed with them, validating emotions that had previously been dismissed as overreaction or bias. And it didn't stop with that initial comment. Word spread through league circles quickly. Other respected figures, players, analysts, and former greats weighed in, adding layers of amplification and nuance. Suddenly, what had been a quiet debate over preseason decisions became a national spectacle. People weren't just talking about a young quarterback's benching anymore. They were questioning the direction of the franchise, the priorities of the coach, and even the influence of fans and social media on organizational decisions. Each new voice echoed the first, reinforcing the narrative, expanding its reach, and increasing the pressure on the coach exponentially. Meanwhile, Sanders himself remained quiet, the calm center of a storm swirling around him. Every fan post, highlight comparison, and viral clip reinforced the tension. The stakes were no longer theoretical. This wasn't just a discussion about who starts on Sunday. It was a cultural phenomenon, a convergence of authority, fan passion, and media amplification that few could have predicted. The spark had been lit, and from that moment there was no going back. The next moves would be watched, dissected, and debated with the intensity of a playoff series. And the consequences would ripple far beyond one game or one player. When Hall of Famers speak, people listen. And when they speak in unison, it's impossible to ignore. The moment that sparked social media fire quickly drew in some of football's most respected voices, turning what had been a controversial benching into a national conversation about leadership, talent, and accountability. Shannon Sharpe, known for cutting through noise with unflinching clarity, didn't hesitate. On live television, he leaned forward, eyes sharp, and delivered a verdict that would echo across timelines. You've got this kid sitting there with poise, accuracy, and leadership, and you're trotting out someone else. Those words weren't just commentary, they were a declaration. A statement that framed the situation as not merely a coaching decision, but a potential failure of judgment at the highest level. The reaction in the studio was immediate and telling. Colleagues nodded vigorously, the tension palpable. Producers scrambled, realizing they were capturing something viral before it even happened. It was one of those rare instances where authority, charisma, and timing aligned perfectly, and the audience could sense it. Social media picked up the clip almost instantly, but more importantly, the credibility of the speaker gave fans and commentators a shared lens through which to interpret the controversy. Suddenly, the debate wasn't about personal opinion. It was about professional assessment delivered by someone who had lived and breathed football at its highest echelons.
If you enjoyed today's breakdown and want to keep up with all the drama, trades, and behind-the-scenes action in the NFL, then don't forget to hit that like button.
Hours later, Michael Irvin escalated the rhetoric. Unlike the initial critique, Irvin's commentary added weight by blending analysis with what appeared to be insider knowledge. Sources suggest he referenced conversations with current Browns players, hinting that the locker room itself recognized Sanders as the natural leader. You don't let talent like this rot on the sideline while the offense looks dead, he said, emphasizing the broader cultural and performance implications of the decision. In doing so, Irvin reframed the benching as not just a coaching misstep, but as a potential fracture in team cohesion. And he delivered it with the authority of someone who had navigated championship locker rooms and understood the subtle, high-stakes dynamics of player relationships. Then came Brett Favre, whose involvement elevated the debate to a rare level of gravity. The legendary quarterback, known for rarely commenting on current team controversies, weighed in during a Mississippi radio interview. His tone was measured, yet every word carried weight. "I don't know what a Stefanski's waiting for. Sanders has that it factor. If you've got a young quarterback with confidence and command, you play him. Period." Favre's phrasing wasn't just a recommendation. It was a principle, grounded in decades of experience, emphasizing the risks of ignoring elite talent. He echoed Irvin's earlier points about locker room impact, layering the discussion with his own unique authority as someone who had been both player and strategist in high-pressure situations. Taken together, these voices created a pressure wave impossible for any organization to ignore. Hall of Famers were not just commenting. They were influencing the narrative, guiding fans, shaping media coverage, and implicitly challenging the coach's judgment. Their combined influence amplified every tweet, meme, and highlight reel, transforming individual critiques into a national referendum on leadership, talent recognition, and team culture. When legends weigh in, the conversation changes entirely, and suddenly what began as an internal debate about a starting quarterback becomes a spectacle, a cultural event, and a test of how far coaching authority can withstand the scrutiny of both the public and football royalty. Once the Hall of Famers spoke, the spark hit Tinder's social media exploded like a wildfire across timelines, feeds, and comment sections. Fans who had been frustrated for weeks suddenly found a focal point, and suddenly every like, share, and retweet became part of a growing movement. Within hours, clips of the original commentary were reposted, memed, and analyzed frame by frame. People weren't just sharing content. They were dissecting every word, every gesture, and every nuance of Sanders' poise versus Gabriel's performance. Comparisons between college highlights and recent pro struggles flooded Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, creating a continuous, self-reinforcing feedback loop that amplified the initial criticism exponentially. The numbers alone tell the story. Within the first 48 hours of the viral clip, related content amassed millions of views. Tweets that juxtaposed Sanders' college precision with Gabriel's pro errors racked up hundreds of thousands of retweets. Instagram Reels reached millions, and TikTok creators were producing daily breakdowns with commentary, body language analysis, and play-by-play speculation. Fans weren't just reacting. They were producing content, driving a narrative, and effectively creating a digital pressure campaign aimed at one individual, Kevin Stefanski. Hashtags began trending nationally, rallying casual fans, dedicated followers, and even media personalities into a cohesive chorus of scrutiny and expectation. But what made this mobilization unique wasn't just volume. It was strategy, intentional or not. Fans instinctively leveraged social media's architecture to maximize visibility. Clips were shared at optimal times, captions highlighted the most damning quotes, and trends gained momentum through organic amplification. This wasn't just noise. It was organized chaos, a decentralized army of viewers converging around a single story with precision. Every post, every meme, and every highlight added layers to the narrative, transforming what could have been a fleeting moment into a multi-day, multi-platform spectacle. The cultural significance of this fan activity cannot be overstated. Suddenly, social media wasn't just commentary. It became a form of influence with tangible stakes. The narrative wasn't controlled solely by coaches or the front office anymore. Fans, empowered by legends, authority, and digital tools, were actively shaping expectations and driving public discourse. Even neutral observers couldn't ignore the magnitude. What started as frustration had morphed into a full-blown, culturally sanctioned movement that amplified every criticism, every suggestion, and every point of debate. Importantly, the digital frenzy created real-world consequences. Every practice, press conference, and decision became scrutinized online. Fans weren't just observing. They were predicting, analyzing, and holding the organization accountable in real time. The team's choices were being tracked, replayed, and dissected, and every misstep could instantly become viral fodder. In this ecosystem, the line between casual fan and influential commentator blurred. Social media transformed from a passive platform into an active participant, a force in itself, turning speculation and opinion into a visible, unstoppable wave of cultural pressure. In short, the combination of Hall of Fame authority and fan-driven amplification created a perfect storm. Legends spoke, fans mobilized, and every clip, highlight, and hashtag acted as fuel. The Browns' quarterback controversy had transcended sports chatter. It had become a digital movement, unstoppable and impossible to ignore. The next question wasn't if Kevin Stefanski noticed, it was how long he could withstand it. The conversation outside the building was intense, but what really matters happens behind closed doors. The locker room is where talent, ego, and accountability collide, and, according to multiple unverified sources, it hasn't been calm in Cleveland. Whispers began circulating almost immediately after the Hall of Famers' commentary. Offensive linemen reportedly frustrated with the protection schemes, receivers allegedly confused about the quarterback rotation, and even defensive players quietly questioning the team's direction. These aren't confirmed facts, they're anonymous observations, framed as speculation, but they create a vivid picture of a team under pressure, one where internal confidence may be fraying at the edges. Sources say the tension isn't just about performance, it's about clarity and trust. Players reportedly struggle to understand why a highly regarded rookie, one with proven leadership and poise, remains inactive while another quarterback takes the snaps. Even practice observations are fueling the debate, as insiders suggest Sanders demonstrates a command of the offense that makes some teammates wonder why the rotation continues. Again, these are leaks, anonymous commentary, and unverified reports. But the fact that they exist and circulate in trusted circles adds weight to the story, giving fans and analysts fodder for endless discussion. The psychological element cannot be overstated. When a locker room senses indecision or inconsistency from leadership, cohesion begins to wobble. If a few offensive linemen or key skill position players are frustrated, the ripple effect reaches every corner of the team. Anonymous reports suggest that some veterans may even privately voice agreement with the legends' critiques, validating external pressure from the inside. In this environment, speculation doesn't just stay in whispers, it becomes narrative ammunition, amplified by social media and fan communities already mobilized. A coach's choices are scrutinized not only externally but internally, and that dual pressure can reshape locker room dynamics before a single game is played. Sources also hint at subtle signs of division. Team meetings, sideline interactions, and practice reps, all observed by insiders, are allegedly under more scrutiny than usual. Receivers supposedly express quiet frustration when certain plays fail, linemen reportedly question decision-making during protection calls, and the offense may be less fluid than it could be due to uncertainty over leadership at quarterback. Again, these claims are unverified, but they contribute to a growing narrative. The Hall of Famers' comments aren't just commentary, they may be reflecting an internal truth. When legends echo these whispers publicly, anonymous locker room observations suddenly feel confirmed, and the perception of internal unrest reaches a critical mass. At the center of it all sits Sanders, quietly observing. His composure contrasts sharply with the storm around him, which only heightens the drama. A player so obviously talented and poised, yet inactive, becomes a magnet for speculation. The locker room whispers, the external critiques, and the viral content converge into a narrative suggesting that the team may be grappling with more than a simple personnel choice. It's a culture clash, a test of authority, and a delicate balance of trust, talent, and ego. The result is a perfect storm: public pressure, legend validation, and internal whispers all colliding. The Browns' locker room, as sources say, may be quietly fracturing, and whether the reports are fully accurate or not, the perception alone is enough to shape the conversation and intensify the stakes heading into the season. Behind the headlines, behind the viral clips, the real pressure is building where the power actually resides, in the front office and the league offices. Ownership doesn't take kindly to public embarrassment, and the NFL certainly doesn't enjoy seeing one of its marquee investments benched while a young, highly marketable quarterback sits inactive. Sources suggest that the Browns' ownership is paying close attention, quietly assessing not just the performance on the field but the public fallout, the mounting social media pressure, and the narratives being shaped by Hall of Famers. The combination of all three creates a problem that transcends wins and losses. It becomes a reputational crisis. The commissioner's office reportedly shares that concern. After all, the NFL has a vested interest in promoting the next generation of talent. Sanders is part of the league's investment in the 2024 draft class, positioned as a face for the future, appearing in documentaries and featured in promotional content designed to engage fans. To see that narrative falter because the rookie is inactive while the team struggles is, sources say, deeply frustrating to those tasked with protecting the league's broader brand. There are whispers, unverified but persistent, that the league office has communicated its displeasure subtly, sending signals that the situation is being monitored, even if no public statement is made. Ownership and league pressure work in tandem, but through different mechanisms. Owners, with the team's long-term success and marketability at stake, reportedly field calls from prominent league figures questioning the Browns' strategy. The pressure is professional and economic. A wasted rookie could cost ticket sales, media attention, and fan engagement. Meanwhile, the league's concern is structural and reputational. It cannot allow highly promoted talent to languish without drawing scrutiny. These two sources of influence converge on the coach, creating a unique dynamic where internal decision-making is under unprecedented external evaluation. It's important to note that no one is claiming these pressures are dictating the coach's every move. Stefanski retains his autonomy in theory, but the environment is unmistakably altered. Every practice, every press conference, every comment is being analyzed not just by fans and media, but by those with the power to influence broader outcomes. Ownership cannot ignore viral campaigns and Hall of Fame critiques when they risk eroding credibility, sponsorship relationships, and the overall fan base. Similarly, the league office, even if operating quietly, has both the ear and authority to signal that patience is not unlimited. In practical terms, this creates a high-stakes balancing act. The coach must weigh internal assessments, film study, practice performance, system familiarity, against a growing chorus of external voices, all amplified by fans, media, and legends. The stakes are both reputational and operational. Every decision carries risk, but the visibility of the situation magnifies consequences in a way rarely seen in professional sports. Public scrutiny now competes with private evaluation, creating a pressure cooker where the margin for error is razor-thin. In short, the Browns' quarterback situation is no longer just a question of X's and O's. It's an organizational stress test, where the weight of ownership expectations, league oversight, and social amplification all converge. The coach is facing not just a personnel choice but a multidimensional dilemma: succeed quietly and risk external revolt, or respond publicly and risk internal credibility. Either path carries career-defining consequences, and the clock is ticking. Kevin Stefanski's position has never felt more precarious. On the surface, it's a simple question: who starts at quarterback? But in reality, it's a choice loaded with career-defining consequences, internal tension, and public scrutiny. Every decision now carries the weight of an entire ecosystem. Hall of Famers weighing in, social media amplifying every move, fans dissecting every practice clip, and ownership quietly assessing whether patience has limits. There is no safe path, only a spectrum of risks. On one side, Stefanski can stay the course and keep Dillon Gabriel as the starter. Preseason metrics, practice performance, and system familiarity all support this choice. Gabriel has earned trust within the coaching staff and maintains continuity in the offense. From a traditional football standpoint, this is defensible. But in today's environment, defensible isn't enough. Legends have spoken, fans are mobilized, and social media is relentless. Standing firm risks more than just criticism. It risks a fractured locker room, wanting fan support, and a narrative that paints him as tone-deaf or unwilling to adapt. Every misstep, every interception, every hesitation on game day becomes amplified evidence against his judgment. On the other side, he can pivot and install Shedeur Sanders as the starter. From the outside, it seems like the obvious choice. Sanders has poise, leadership, and star potential, a player Hall of Famers and fans alike are calling to see on the field. But such a move is not without consequence. Capitulating to external pressure could undermine his authority in the locker room. Coaches thrive on trust and decisiveness. Showing that decisions can be swayed by commentary or social media campaigns risks sending the wrong message to players and staff. It might appease the public, but internally, it could create friction and uncertainty that lasts far longer than a single season. The dilemma is heightened by timing. The regular season is approaching, and every practice, press conference, and media interaction is scrutinized. Each day Sanders sits inactive adds fuel to the narrative that the team is mishandling a franchise talent. Every fan reaction, every viral clip, every opinion from a football legend compounds the pressure. Stefanski must make a choice before the first game, knowing that the consequences of hesitation or miscalculation could extend beyond wins and losses to the very perception of his leadership. The tension is further complicated by precedent. If a coach folds under external pressure, it sets a standard for future decisions. Other young stars, other hotly debated personnel moves, could be evaluated less on merit and more on viral sentiment. Conversely, if he holds his ground and fails, it could validate criticism not just from fans, but from legends, creating a perfect storm of professional doubt and media scrutiny. There are no easy answers, only calculated risks, each carrying potential for long-term ramifications. Stefanski's dilemma is, at its core, a study in leadership under unprecedented pressure. It's not simply about choosing a quarterback. It's about weighing authority against accountability, internal logic against external opinion, and short-term optics against long-term trust. Every choice is amplified, every consequence is magnified, and every move will be remembered, not just for wins and losses, but for what it says about leadership in an age where legends, fans, and social media have as much influence as the front office. The question isn't just who plays, it's whether Stefanski can navigate a perfect storm of scrutiny without losing control of the narrative or the locker room. As the Browns' quarterback saga reaches its boiling point, one thing is unmistakably clear. This isn't just a personnel decision. It has evolved into a national spectacle, a high-stakes test of leadership, and a case study in the collision between talent, authority, and public influence. Shedeur Sanders sits quietly, the epicenter of attention, while Kevin Stefanski navigates a perfect storm of legend commentary, fan mobilization, ownership concern, and league scrutiny. Each move, each hesitation, and each decision is magnified, dissected, and debated in real time, creating pressures that few coaches have ever faced in modern NFL history. The implications stretch far beyond Cleveland. When Hall of Famers publicly question coaching judgment, social media amplifies it, and fans mobilize around a narrative traditional authority structures are challenged. Organizations are no longer insulated. Private decisions become public spectacle. Coaches like Stefanski must weigh internal logic, practice performance, preseason metrics, player familiarity, against an unprecedented confluence of external pressures. Every choice becomes a test, not just of strategy, but of leadership, credibility, and foresight. The question isn't merely who plays quarterback. It's who controls the narrative, who commands respect, and how authority adapts in a world where visibility and opinion collide like never before. For the players, the stakes are equally high. Locker room dynamics, morale, and trust all hinge on leadership decisions that are now filtered through the lens of legends, validation, and viral fan movements. Whether Sanders takes the field or continues to watch from the sidelines, the ripples affect every teammate, every coach, and every game. The tension between performance and perception has never been so acute, nor so public. What happens inside the walls of the locker room no longer stays inside. Every decision is instantly broadcast, critiqued, and immortalized online. And yet, amid this chaos, Sanders remains composed, the quiet center in a storm of commentary, speculation, and opinion. His silence magnifies the drama, making the eventual decision feel almost inevitable. Will Stefanski hold firm, risking credibility and internal cohesion, or will external pressure from legends, fans, ownership, and the league force his hand? The answer will define more than a season. It will define leadership in the age of social amplification, where authority is constantly measured against visibility and influence. Ultimately, the Browns' quarterback controversy has become a story about more than football. It's about culture, power, and the fragile balance between autonomy and accountability. Legends have spoken, fans have mobilized, and every stakeholder is watching. The question now isn't just when or if Sanders will start. It's what this moment says about the evolution of leadership, influence, and decision-making in professional sports. The regular season looms, and with it, the inevitable reckoning. Somewhere the clock is ticking. Somewhere Stefanski weighs his choices with unprecedented stakes on the line. And somewhere, the entire football world waits, watching, debating, and wondering. In a league where legends, fans, and social media can collide to shape outcomes, who really holds the power, and who will emerge victorious in the end?
If you enjoyed today's breakdown and want to keep up with all the drama, trades, and behind-the-scenes action in the NFL, then don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps this channel grow and lets us know you love this kind of content. And hey, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with your friends, your group chats, or anyone who loves football as much as you do. The more the conversation spreads, the better it gets. Most importantly, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss when we drop fresh stories, wild rumors, or breaking updates that the mainstream media won't talk about.